Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Leverbolt76. I'm Chad, and today let's talk about the 300 Savage. Is the 300 Savage the parent case to the 308, or is it just some poor schmuck stuck paying the bills while the 30-06 runs around being a deadbeat dad, seeing the 308 on every other weekend and holiday? Today we're going to find out. Alright, let's get after it. The 300 Savage was developed by engineers at Savage. They started with a 30-06, shortened it, straightened the case walls, and then steepened the shoulders to 30 degrees so that it could fit more powder in it. And then they gave it a relatively short neck, and this is so that it could fit in the same action as a 250-3000. On the left we have the 250-3000, the 300 Savage in the center, and the 30-06 on the right. And you can see with that 250-3000 that that case is quite a bit more tapered compared to the 300 and the 30-06. But you can definitely see what Savage was trying to go for there with the 300 in the steeper shoulders compared to the 250, but that short neck in trying to keep as close as they could to the same length as the 250. And also I think it's very dramatic in this that you can see how much longer the 30-06 is compared to the 300 Savage and the 250 Savage. It was so popular that other manufacturers like Remington and Winchester were even chambering their rifles for it, as well as making ammunition. This cartridge quickly became Savage's bread and butter. In fact, it was outdoing the 250-3000 at the time. Let's have a look at the chart and see how the 300 stacks up against other popular .30 calibers of the day. So I've matched the 300 Savage up with the 308 Winchester, the 30-06 Springfield, and of course the old 30-30. We'll see if we can't pick on it some more today. They've all got 150 grain soft point bullets, except for the old 30-30. It's got 150 grain flat nose, of course. And if we look at the muzzle velocities, there's something that I find interesting here. With the 300 Savage, you've got that 2750 at the barrel. Then the 308 Winchester's roughly 100 more than that at 2820. Then the 30-06 is roughly 100 more than that at 2910. Of course, old 30-30, it's not even hanging in there, but and the same thing goes with the energy. We've got 2,305 foot-pounds on the 300 Savage at the muzzle, roughly 350 more out of the 308 at 2650, and then we've got a couple hundred more out of the 30-06 at 2820. And this same thing carries through, of course, out to 400 yards. That Savage is putting out 1,630 feet per second at 885 foot-pounds, which isn't bad. I don't know. I definitely shoot at a deer at that. I know I've heard some people say 1,000 or 1,200 yards, but 150 or so foot-pounds of energy, I don't think a deer's going to know the difference between that. I think you're still doing good there. I'd like a 300-yard shot a lot more, but I think you've still got the gas out there at 400 yards. And of course, that 308's coming in at 1,770 feet per second and 1,050 foot-pounds, which it's still doing pretty good at 400 yards. And of course, the 30-06, you've got 1,840 feet per second with 1,130 foot-pounds. But if you look at the bullet drop on these, I mean, that 30-06 dropping 24.4 at the 400 yards that 300 Savage really isn't that far behind it. So I think what this proves really is just powder capacity. They're all three basically the same case. Each one is just a bit longer than the next. Therefore, you have a little bit more powder in each larger cartridge. Therefore, you have a little bit more speed and a little bit more energy. So I don't know if we've proved a whole lot here, except for uh, the 308's a bit less than the 30-06, and the 300's a bit less than the 308. But uh, they're really not a heck of a lot different across the board. As we can see, the 300 Savage definitely holds its own against the 308 and the 30-06. But nonetheless, production slowed dramatically after the birth of the 308. But with that said, it's still a fairly popular cartridge today. Nobody chambers for it anymore, not even Savage. But Remington and Winchester still make ammunition for the 300. And in back east and parts of Europe, where they're not allowed to use NATO rounds, it still remains fairly popular today. Is the 300 Savage the parent case to the 308 Winchester, or is it the 30-06 Springfield? If we had to look at case design, it's really hard to say anything. All three have the same size head and base of case. As you can see, if you go across the chart on A, head size is all 473. The base of the case, we've got a 470, 470. For some reason, the Savage is listed at a 471. Obviously, case length isn't going to really tell us anything. We know that they increased the sides of the case. They straightened those a little bit for more powder capacity compared to the 30-06. And we also know that the 308, they straightened the case walls a little bit more than the 300 Savage. So that doesn't really tell us anything. If we look at the shoulders, the 300 Savage, which was developed from the 30-06, has a 30-degree shoulder. But then when they made the 308, they dropped it back to 20 degrees compared to the 30-06's 17 degree. So that doesn't really tell us anything. If we look at the length of their neck, the Savage had a very short neck as to fit into the same length action as the 250 3000 Savage, whereas the 30-06 Springfield had a fairly long neck. You can see there it's a .383. The 308 Winchester is a .301, so it's a bit shorter. And then the Savage's is a .220. So that doesn't really tell us anything. But I did find on ballisticstudies.com a paragraph that I think is very helpful. And so I will read from that. And I think this is a very definitive answer to the question. So, I'm quoting, experiments were conducted exploring the feasibility of a shorter version of the 30-06, starting with the 300 Savage cartridge as a base design. Several prototype cartridges were developed over the next few years before arrival at the final cartridge design. Prototype T65. The T65 had less body taper than the 300 Savage in order to increase powder capacity, and while the shoulder angle was reduced from 30 to 20 degrees for ease of production. The case rim was thickened for added reliability during extraction, and a longer neck gave a longer neck gave superior bullet grip as well as increased case capacity. Outwardly, the cartridge appeared to be shortened versions of the 30-06. However, in essence, the T65, which is the 308, was a subtle blend of both the 30-06 and 300 Savage combined with further modifications. Okay, let's have a look at the gun. This particular gun is a Savage Model 99 EG, and it was manufactured in 1948. And it's somewhat special in the fact that this was the first year of production as Savage moved to the Chicopee Falls plant. They released these rifles. And this one, see if I can get it up here close enough for you, has hand-cut checkering on the fore-end and the pistol grip. It has the correct brazed-on front sight and the steel butt plate without the Savage logo on it. Like I say, it has a pistol grip stock, and as you can see here, it is not drilled and tapped. It's getting close to the era that Savage started drilling and tapping rifles at the factory, but it still has the Savage Model 99 logo on top here. Everything on this rifle is correct, and there's no crack on the tang, as a lot of these old Savages do. You've got the case hardened lever. The action is smooth as can be, just like any Savage. Of course, as I always say, none of my guns are ever loaded unless I'm at the range. And this has a cocking indicator. And just as the previous ones do, just as I think all the Model 99s did, as well as the from the factory, the sling swivels on there, if you can see those. And this has been a pretty good old gun. I've shot it quite a bit. I've killed one deer with it, and without any trouble at all. So, at any rate, let's take it out to the range and see how well it does. Well, we made it out to the range. This old gun, it shoots MOA at 100 yards, I know that. So I just came straight out to the long range targets and set this thing up for 400 yards. So we're gonna give her a try at that and see what it does. Today I did something a little bit different. I got tired of running up and down the hill setting up the camera, so I brought my drone with me, see if that works. There, we found it. So while that drone's flying back, you ought to like and subscribe to the channel. I'd sure appreciate it. And then I'm also going to take this opportunity to throw some excuses out there. Right before I started shooting, about the time I got the drone out there to where it needed to be, that sun poked over the top of the hill and making it damn near impossible to see that 400-yard target. I was surprised I hit it at all. But I just want to say it's not the gun's fault. I know that rifle's an MOA rifle. I've shot at that target before and done pretty well at it. So definitely the sun's fault on this go around. And if I ever take another, or on my next video, take another rifle out there to shoot, I might bring that 300 with me again so you guys can see how well it does and get 3 out of 3.